Is a DBA basically just an easier PhD? Is the DBA degree as respected as a PhD? And will a DBA help me get a faculty job or advance my current career? Those are all great questions, and you should be asking all of those and many more before you choose a doctorate program. But they don't have simple answers. My name is Dr. Dutch Kendall, and I am a faculty member in one of the best, and therefore one of the largest DBA programs in the country. I also happen to hold my PhD. Over many years, I've worked with hundreds of DBA students, and I've seen how misconceptions about the degree can lead to a lot of frustration and disappointment. So, what follows is not intended as a sales promotion. I simply wanted to have an honest conversation with you about what a DBA is, how it differs from a PhD, and how you can decide what the best path forward is for you. I was part of the original team that developed my university's DBA program and have since had many conversations with candidates, current students, and graduates about the degree. Unfortunately, those conversations have highlighted how inaccurate many people's expectations can be. For example, one graduate of our program contacted me looking for advice after their application for a full-time, tenured faculty position at their local giant state university was rejected. This particular graduate had a lot of impressive experience in business, but after they completed their DBA, they then decided that they wanted to get into higher education. They didn't even get an interview. Understandably, this DBA graduate was frustrated. They had invested a lot of time and money earning a terminal degree and assumed it will qualify them for such a position. But tenured positions in those institutions pay very well and are therefore in extremely high demand. Big public universities prefer candidates with a PhD, a record of academic research, and previous college teaching experience. The problem is not that the DBA doesn't have any value. The problem was a misunderstanding about what the employer values. A DBA degree can create tremendous opportunities in teaching, leadership, consulting, and applied research. But no degree alone guarantees any particular job, and different employers evaluate DBAs and PhDs differently. That example illustrates an important point. A DBA is not a lesser PhD, and a PhD is not a more prestigious DBA. They are terminal degrees designed primarily for different purposes. Now, there are actually many different types of doctorates. A DBA is what is known as a professional doctor. It's more closely related to an MD, which qualifies medical doctors, or a JD, which is what attorneys have, than it is to a PhD. Broadly speaking, a PhD, literally a doctorate in philosophy, is designed to prepare someone to become an academic researcher. The emphasis is on developing new theory, producing generalizable knowledge, publishing scholarly research, and holding deep expertise in a very narrow and specialized field. A DBA also requires research, but its center of gravity is different. It is generally designed for experienced professionals who want to use research and theory to understand and address consequential problems within organizations, industries, or their communities. Now, there are no absolute boundaries, and of course, there's often overlap. PhD graduates frequently do applied work, and DBA graduates can teach, publish, and conduct academic research. But the emphasis of the degree is different. The right question is not which degree is better, but rather which degree will better prepare me for the work that I want to actually do. Is a DBA respected as much as a PhD? The honest answer to this is a qualified yes. For the vast majority of the world, all doctorate degrees are the same. A doctor is a doctor is a doctor. For example, everyone who holds the title doctor, like me, is used to having people ask them medical questions. And all doctorate degrees have a seemingly incredible power to enhance your credibility. As someone who holds a doctorate degree, I would tell you sometimes it feels a little silly. We're just not that special. But as soon as you earn that title, in my case, Dr. Kendall, everyone wants you to write their job recommendation letter. It gives you instant authority. Everyone assumes you're some kind of genius and wants to ask your advice. But while doctorate degrees are all considered the same by most of the world, that is not true in academia. There is a hierarchy of doctorate degrees in the academic or higher education world, and the PhD is clearly at the top. So someone who holds a PhD will always have an advantage over someone who holds a professional doctorate, like a DBA, but also like an EDD or a DNP or even a DMin for academic jobs like full-time faculty. So if neither degree is automatically better, how do you choose? My simple advice is to begin with the work that you want to do after graduation and then consider what's the most direct path to get you there. Now, if your primary goal is an academic career at a university where publishing original research is a central expectation, then a PhD is the more natural path. But a DBA is a better fit if you are an experienced professional who wants to become a stronger organizational leader or who wants to move into consulting or applied research. It can also support a move into college teaching, but as my earlier example illustrates, you're probably going to have to start small. That means reaching out to community colleges and small private nonprofit institutions that emphasize teaching over research. And then once you build up your track record of teaching performance and publications, and if you can show that you match the discipline that those larger public universities need, then you have a much better shot at getting a faculty role. So someone who has a DBA, but no teaching or publication experience, they will not get a tenured position at a big research institution. But someone who has an outstanding teaching record, a long list of publications on their CV, and multiple professional certifications in addition to their DBA, well, that makes a much stronger candidate. I have mentioned earlier that as a faculty member in a DBA program, I have encountered a lot of misconceptions about the DBA degree. Here is a short list. One unfortunate misperception is that a DBA is simply easier, meaning it takes less work or that the assignments take less skill and knowledge to complete. Now, there's some basis for that assumption. PhD programs, for example, are typically much longer than DBA programs. But the reality is that how easy it is depends entirely on you and your skill set. There are many students who would find a DBA program much more difficult to complete than a PhD program. The degrees differ in orientation and purpose, but not necessarily academic rigor. Some people look at a DBA as simply an MBA with a few extra courses. If that's your expectation, you're going to be surprised. A DBA is actually much closer to a PhD in structure than it is to an MBA. A legitimate DBA requires doctoral level research, high levels of critical thinking, and professional writing. And there's a lot more to it than just completing courses. This brings me to the next misconception that a DBA does not involve original research. DBA programs include either a dissertation or a project that requires the student to complete an intensive independent research study. We already discussed the common misconception that a DBA degree, really any terminal degree, will lead to a guaranteed position as a professor. Colleges and universities have accreditation requirements they have to meet. Those accrediting bodies measure the proportion of courses that are taught by doctorally qualified instructors. So, in today's environment, it has become very difficult to get any college teaching job, even an adjunct position, without a doctorate. It is, in fact, the price of admission. But it is also not enough. Faculty hiring depends on numerous other factors such as teaching experience, publications, disciplinary fit, and the specific needs of the institution. Students often come to DBA programs with significant professional experience. We've had many executives of substantial companies in our program. These students, they carry a lot of confidence with them, and sometimes that confidence is unfounded. Professional experience is a requirement for most DBA programs, but it's just a foundation to build from. DBA programs are designed to stretch you so you can learn and grow. So don't expect that just because you've had a stellar career, that means a DBA program is going to be easy for you. Last, some people seem to assume that really all doctoral programs are alike. Believing that to be true, they simply go bargain shopping for a program. That's a big mistake. Programs vary considerably in rigor, research expectancy, structure, length, cost, delivery format, level of faculty support, and reputation. For many years, one of my jobs has been to kick off the first day of residency with our new DBA students by talking about what it takes to be successful in a doctoral program. My top 10 list of success skills has become a bit famous, or infamous. Since that pitch is 90 minutes long, however, let me give you the punchline. Research has repeatedly shown the number one thing that separates people who successfully get their doctorate degrees from those who don't is tenacity. If you talk to people who hold doctorate degrees, inevitably you will hear amazing stories about what they had to overcome to get their degrees. I could spend hours talking with you about people who faced terrible, dark moments during their degree program, but still refused to give up. And those people, they get degrees. This is ultimately a matter of motivation. The odds are that over a multi-year challenging doctorate program, life will happen, and you will seriously consider giving up. You have to decide in advance that when the worst happens, you're going to write a story of courage about how you responded, which you can then use to encourage others in their own journeys. Tenacity and motivation are way more important to succeeding in a doctoral program than connections or money or experience or charm, and way more important than intelligence. Those who succeed are not the smartest students. In a doctorate program, everybody is smart enough. Those who succeed are the ones who refuse to be beaten. If you want to hear the full list, I look forward to seeing you at one of our future residencies. The next question is, who is likely to thrive in a DBA program? And is it me? Being an experienced professional certainly helps. There are good reasons why DBA programs generally require significant experience to be admitted. If this experience is combined with curiosity, or you want to try to understand why something is happening and are motivated enough to investigate it systematically, well, then you're well positioned to learn how to use credible evidence to improve practice and develop innovative solutions to difficult problems. Sometimes experience, though, can become a bit of a burden if it biases you or narrows your thinking too much and you're no longer flexible and open to the unexpected. So despite your experience, you have to be receptive to feedback. You're becoming a scholar, not merely adding a credential to your resume. And since that growth will likely stretch you, you have to be willing to persevere. This is where tenacity and motivation are key. Now, if your primary goal is merely to be called doctor, that probably isn't going to be good enough. If you're expecting a DBA program to be a quick and easy path to padding your resume, then now's probably not the right time in your life to take on the challenges of sustained doctoral work. If you hate research, or there's other areas where you're just unwilling to stretch yourself, like statistics or philosophy or problem solving or working with a team, then again, this is probably not the degree for you. And I would argue, most importantly, because life happens, if you don't have a clear and compelling why identified, then you will almost inevitably stumble. In my program, we require every student to write this down from the very start, and we ask about it repeatedly. Your why is your motivation and your shield against the pressures that come from family and friends and jobs and your own mind. Note again, I haven't said anything about intelligence or talent, whatever that means to you. Those things are almost never issues. Even if your skills aren't as sharp as you would like, well, good old-fashioned hard work can address that problem. So the best fit is when your purpose, your expectations, and your willingness to work all align. If you're considering a DBA program, let me suggest 5 questions you should ask before you apply. First, make sure you have clearly thought through your why. What are the real under-the-surface reasons you're considering pursuing a doctorate? Is it compelling enough for pushing you through those inevitable tough life moments? Second, a closely related question is whether you are prepared to take on the sustained work required to be successful in a doctoral program. Don't underestimate the amount of time and energy it will take you to keep up with not only your courses, but also your independent research. Be honest with yourself. Can you make room for your doctoral studies alongside your family and work responsibilities? Third, the right degree program for you is largely dependent upon what you want to be doing with it a few years after graduation. So that should be your starting point. Think carefully about the most direct path to get you where you want to go. Next, if you're debating whether you want to pursue a PhD or something like a DBA, you should ask yourself which you will find more motivating. Do you find it more motivating to be discovering new knowledge and theories, acting as a sort of scientific pioneer? Or is it more motivating for you to use your research and problem solving skills to tackle meaningful problems? Finally, if I could get you to ask one question about the program that you're considering applying to, I would suggest that you ask about what support you will receive when you reach your independent research stage, whether it's a dissertation or a doctoral project. Why is this important? Because research shows that most doctoral students, if they're going to fail, they fail when they transition from the more traditional coursework to the much less structured experience of completing their own projects. And different programs offer vastly different levels of support at this stage. So it could be a significant difference maker. On that note, if a DBA program does sound like it's consistent with your goals, then I would invite you to take a serious look at our DBA program at Indiana Wesleyan University. This program is uniquely structured with an extraordinary level of faculty support. It teaches practical problem-solving skills in an innovative format that others are now racing to copy. It is ACBSP and HLC accredited and surprisingly affordable. And it comes from a nonprofit Christian institution that has a true heart for students, founded on a proprietary model of virtue and business that equips students to be true world changers. But don't just take my word for it. Talk with our current students and graduates. Look at the statistics and ask difficult questions. We dare you. That is the true sign of a doctoral scholar. After all, we want you to choose our program only if it genuinely fits the work that you want to do and the commitment that you are prepared to make. Now, if you would like to have an honest conversation about that fit, I have provided the contact information for my friends in enrollment. There's also a link to our webpage that has more information about the program. Do me a favor and let them know that Dr. Dutch Kendall sent you, and I will look forward to seeing you at a future residency. May God give you wisdom for discernment and the tenacity to follow through.